Welcome to the Monday Night Coaches Show with Coach Brad LaPlante of the Hutto Hippos. I'm Todd Robinson, voice of the Hippos, and appreciate those that are tuning in on the live stream tonight. And we're going to have a good show tonight. We were going to talk about a little bit about the Hippos last Friday night and look ahead to this Friday's game against Stony Point. But we're also joined by our Hutto's Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Henry Gideon, on the far end in the yellow jacket, and by Tim Kuntz, who's the principal of VLK Architects. And we are going to talk and enjoy talking a lot about upcoming stadium renovations that will happen before next year and some of that. So it'll be a fun conversation. But before we get to Henry and Tim, we're going to have to revisit Friday night just a little bit because that's what we have to do. First of all, I do want to say we are live from Rio Grande Restaurant here in Hutto, and obviously, we always want you to come out and join us on the patio, but if you can't, we appreciate the folks that are tuned in on the live stream. Kind of cozy in here tonight.
This is good.
First time the weather's been cold, and they've had to drop the screens and got the heaters on. And tell you what, those folks that are out there listening or watching instead of being here, come out on a cool night. This patio feels kind of good.
It's good.
It's a good little mix of a breeze coming in, a little cool breeze, but then the heaters overhead. It's a good setup. So Coach's Show is sponsored by Fingerprint Ideas. We appreciate Drew Hargrove and all that he does for us. So Hippos after Friday night, 2-2 on the year, 1-1, District 25, 6A. Coach, one of those games that obviously we don't ever like having a Coach's Show after a loss, but sometimes, every once in a while, they happen. We haven't had too many.
Right.
But one of those games that I guess first thing I want to talk about is, we talked about it, I think, during the week, you and I did, and certainly it came into play, and that was the wind.
Right.
Wind in a game like that can really play a factor, and, a lot of people say, well, both teams have the wind, equal amount of quarters, all that, but it can really change field position and, depending on when you have the wind or when you're going against the wind and what all happens. Games cannot look the same always when you're playing in a, I don't know, probably 20-mile-an-hour wind most of the night, and a chilly wind at that, too.
Yes.
So you won the toss and elected to defer. Good decision because, they're going to take the ball. You're going to get the wind at your back, get a good kickoff. They start at the 24-yard line, which is deeper in their own territory than most of our kicks when we do the pooch kick. And I'll be darned, at the very first play of the game, kid doesn't run 76 yards for touchdown.
Not a great start, was it?
It wasn't a good start.
Well, I mean, and, you saw the weekend a little bit on Twitter there. It's a game of inches. 2 steps was worth 76 yards there. We shuffled out instead of shuffled in. I think there was a hold at the point of attack, but it was a play that they hadn't run, hadn't seen on film to us. So linebackers flowed. We had a guy shovel out instead of shuffle in. They ran the play later on at least 2 times, got 3 and 4 yards on those plays. So, yes, it's a negative that we gave up right away, but our kids learned. So, and you take that play and one other play away, and our defense played spectacular.
Fantastic game. Absolutely. Well, and I'll touch on that in just a little bit. So, you kind of get punched in the mouth right off the bat. They kick off. Nothing. Lots of teams fall behind 7-0. No big deal early in the game. Kick off. They kick off into the wind and get a really good kick. Field positioned and all that great for us. And then, again, I have to think wind factors in. We get back there to punt. Brody Bueno gets back to punt. And we airmail the snap over his head. Of course, they fall on it in the end zone for a touchdown, and within less than 2 minutes of the game, you're down 14-0.
Right.
And we were saying on the radio or on the broadcast of the game, people don't think about long snappers in a strong wind, and half the time you're snapping it into the wind.
Right.
Half the time you're snapping it with the wind at your back, and that's a hard. You can't practice for that unless you happen to have a day that's winds blowing 20 miles an hour and you practice it.
Well, and even on windy days like that, your hands get dry.
Right.
So to find that moisture to get a good grip on the ball is key. But going into the wind, just like a plane, It'll sail up on you, and anytime that you're long snapping and your hips raise and don't go straight back and get a flat snap, it's going to airmail and fly like that.
Well, and you talk about game of inches. So they fall on that instantly. It's 14-0. Kind of shell shocked. Game of inches. Brody is that close to jumping and grabbing that ball and being able to get the punt away. At the other end, I think on their second possession, same thing. They're standing in their end zone. Their snap high. Their guy jumps. I mean, it was an identical thing to Brody's, except for this. Their guy jumps 2 inches high enough to grab it, bring it down, and get a punt away.
Well, and that one there was with the wind. If it had gone against the wind, it would have rose.
Would have rose. So wind really does impact more than golf. It impacts football a lot, and it did
it doesn't
Friday
impact
night.
my golf game, though. Let's be real clear about that.
Yeah, sometimes
It's no land under the tree whether there is wind or not.
Anything. So you fall behind 14-0. Of course, it's like, wow, we don't want to be in this hole. But we responded. A couple of possessions later, we get a nice little drive all the way down. I think actually it wasn't a drive. It was one. They punted. We got it. Grayson one pass to Jay Lambert down that right sideline, and 14-7, and we're feeling like maybe we're grabbing some momentum here. Kickoff. Second play, first or second play, another long run for a touchdown. It's like all that momentum that we thought that we'd been able to get is gone again.
It is.
So you go in down. I think you're at halftime. What was 21-7?
21-7 at half.
But you're getting the ball to start the second half. So with the wind at your back, feeling good about your opportunities coming out of halftime.
Oh, we were fine. I mean, I thought our play calling offensively was fine. We certainly felt good defensively. We had a number of tackles for losses. Everything that we were doing, we felt really sound about. If a big play happened, it wasn't, wow, we have to really take two guys and cover that receiver, or we can't handle that. It was just our mistakes. And eventually, when those plays were ran again, we fixed those mistakes. So our guys really, fought back and did a fine job. And it just, with the wind, one half a step by a receiver, a little bit off throw by the quarterback, a little movement by an offensive lineman to catch the eye of the quarterback. It's all the game within the game that we know as coaches that you can't see, maybe from the press box even. Right. A split. Are you at the top of the numbers compared to the bottom of the numbers, knowing how that play is going to fit off the outside linebacker? So just so many things that it was just one guy. It wasn't four guys on this play. It wasn't, three on this play. It was one guy, or just a little bit different result or angle here and there. How many tip passes were there throughout the course of that game? And
well, I think of Grayson's, I don't know how many INTs he ended up having, but probably half of them were deflections.
Right. And some of them obviously weren't his fault.
Right.
They're down linemen, and their games that they were playing with their twists and stunts really affected our offensive line, which, again, getting pressure in his face, having to step in to make a throw, or we had a couple different routes that should have been at different depths that did affect the height of the throw and width of the throw. Just all comes into, and I keep on saying this, it's a young team,
right.
And it is, and that's not going to be our MO this year, but that is the truth. But we're happy with the progress that we're making, and to get the end result where it was, that team right now, Round Rock, should be undefeated.
Right.
They should be 4-0. Right. A couple turnovers here, a couple turnovers there, and they're undefeated. They're a big, physical ball club.
Well, biggest team, not only physically big, but numbers-wise, biggest 6A school in Central Texas.
Yes, sir.
By far, I think.
Yes.
You look across this field, and they had players lined from 10 to 10.
I think they had 76 or 77 players dressed, and they're a 6A school. It's 3,500 kids that are over there, but we're 4 plays away from competing the heck out of that ball game. And then you take momentum into play with some things that, always it does play into the game. Everybody knows that momentum plays into how well you play, how physical you are, how fast you run to the ball, your excitement level.
Did want to remind the folks that are here at Rio Grande, we do drawings every Monday night. We have Hippo T-shirts. We have Dave Campbell Texas Football Magazine that has the Hutto Hippo edition. Grab a ticket from Gage right here in the hat, working the engineering. Come get a ticket, and we'll do drawings throughout the night. So, Brandon, send your girls over to get some tickets. They can win some stuff. Anybody else is welcome to do that. So speaking of momentum, so you're down 21-7 at half, and you come out second half. You're going to have the wind at your back, feel like you might be able to get right back in the game, and first series, turn it over, and they score, and now it's 28-7.
Right.
And you feel like, or at least we feel like, that, wow, that whole strategy of deferring, getting the wind to start the second half, it's like you've just kind of given that away, right? So,
any of those plays could have happened at any time,
right.
Whether you had the wind or didn't have the wind. You know, our play selection was good against the wind. It was good with the wind. Our run defense was good with the wind for them and against the wind for them. But in order for us to climb back into the game, we had to have things happen for us when we were with the wind, of course.
Well, and wind notwithstanding, you also had to get that. You had to find that momentum that you were talking about, and it's like that was just kind of elusive all night long. We just never could get that momentum established and turn that game around.
Well, and I think we had a third down penalty that hurt, that moved the change for them. We were, at 3rd and 1 in the first quarter. We jump off sides. We had a tip pass that I think we either almost intercepted or did intercept that we lined up offside. So just, little things like that you can't do against good ball clubs.
Yeah.
And expect to win.
Well, talk about how close it was. And, of course, I texted you this Saturday morning. I was like, I know you know this, but sometimes just want to remind you that literally 4 plays in that game was the difference. The 2 long runs, snap over the head, recovered in the end zone for a touchdown, and then the pick 6 in the second half. Take away those 4 plays, it's a 7-3 game in our favor, right?
You're right.
And I think the positives to the game is we held Round Rock to under 300 yards total offense. That's a positive, obviously. By far the least amount they've given up or they've gotten on offense all year. Those 4 plays making the difference. And I think another positive, and I know you mentioned one of the penalties or a couple of penalties that were critical, but for the most part, it seemed like we did a pretty good job of staying fairly penalty-free.
No, I thought our kids were fine, and they played hard. When we at the end of the game, I wasn't disappointed. Other than losing, we weren't disappointed in the kids. I mean, they lined up right. They played hard, and just they have to learn that every snap matters. Mm-hmm. Every play matters. Doesn't matter if it's kickoff. Doesn't matter if it's punt. All 3 phases against good teams. You've got to win 2 out of those 3, if not 3 out of 3, depending on how good that ball club is. And so, turnovers definitely were the story in that game. But, we're going to take a lot of good from that as we have every game. Our first 4, we've taken steps every single game, win or loss. Certainly you want to win, but win or loss, our guys are coming back. They're getting a lot of learning, on the film. There's a lot of ball to play. We've got teams in 25-6A. They're playing their first district ball game tonight. So, we're not out of the picture at all, and we feel good about our guys. We came out healthy. We're going to get some guys healthier or back maybe at this week going into next week. So we'll be at full strength. Got a couple guys we've moved up from junior varsity that are playing well and showing that they're varsity worthy, and they'll help out on special teams. So maybe a guy can get a break instead of playing safety, slot receiver, being on every punt, kickoff, and kick return. That will help us out to play more explosive on offense and defense as well.
Seems like there's occasions throughout the game. Seems like every week this year where there's been some miscommunication between Grayson and receivers. Grayson thinks the receiver's going one way, or a receiver thinks Grayson's throwing one way. And is that a matter of both of them checking off at the line. I know a lot of times there's signals. Grayson will give a signal or whatever, but there just seems to be some times that they're not on the same page.
Right. Well, and again, first thing from quarterback, is he getting the ball out on time and where it needs to be? Where is the protection fitting in? And it broke down at times on Friday, not only from a running back standpoint, but the offensive line as well. I already alluded to, are we lined up correctly according to our splits, because the angle of that throw changes. The other part of it is, let's say we have a certain play where the route is run to 8 yards. If they're a soft cushion team, when they're pressed up on us, we have a route conversion. It changes. Well, you have, the chemistry with those kids. How many times have they gotten that look? And there's a couple things that they did throughout the course of the game defensively they haven't shown yet. Well, every now and then it's right at that time against that play. Good job by their defense. But certainly with a young receiving core where you have maybe one receiver, Jay Lambert, that's had a lot of experience.
Right.
And we are a spread offense. We are a throwing offense. That is going to take time, to get on the same page and pick up all those blitzes and change plays at the line of scrimmage where we do give him the flexibility and freedom to do that as a quarterback. And the receivers do have to adjust to either a verbal cue, a hand signal cue, in order to change that play. So,
well, and obviously we have explosive athletes on that side of the ball, right? So a lot of times it's just a matter of figuring out how are we going to get the ball into their hands and let them do their thing. And you said a lot of times we're here we are at the end of November, and we're normally 8 games in, 7 or 8 games in. We're 4 games in. So, while we're still growing and developing, there's a lot of things still left to learn and develop.
Well, and we've had a different starting lineup every single game offensively. Right. So when you're talking about that timing, okay, let's look at the offensive line. We have not had the same starting lineup at any game this year. Right. There's a chance it's going to change again next week. Just guys are doing, some things better than the other. And, just like we do every week, whether it's defense, offense, or special teams, we go into that scouting report, and we've got to get the matchups that fit us the best against what they're going to show us.
Right. Good news is, like you said, a lot of football left to play, a lot of winnable games left on this schedule, and I think playoff opportunity is definitely still in the cards for the Hippos. So
if people are giving up on that, that's way too early. We got too good of a team, and they're young and going to grow for that.
Absolutely. All right, let me draw a couple of we'll draw a couple of door prizes here. Gage, pull a number out of the bag. If you can. What? 55, number 55. You have a choice of a Hippo shirt or a Dave Campbell Texas Football Magazine. Gwen, that's 10 and wins. You want a shirt or a magazine? Okay, hang on. Let me find a good one for you.
Might be you small
probably
one
this
tonight.
one. I think this one was a small, extra small. That'll probably fit you. You're welcome. Give that ticket to Gage right there. Congratulations, Gwen. Pull one more, Gage. Number 50, 5-0. Terrence Owens. I bet he wants the magazine. You do? Well, let's see. This one's large. This one is medium, I believe. All right. Well, you mentioned that a couple of district teams, or at least one of them, I guess 2 of them, playing for the first time in district, and that's tonight.
Yes.
Actually, Monday Night Football for high school football.
Right.
Westwood playing Stony Point, we play this coming Saturday. Obviously, it was Friday, got moved to Saturday at noon, then got moved to Saturday at 7. Now it's moved back to Saturday at noon. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
No more changes,
Yeah,
please.
We'll talk about that. But that's kind of an interesting thing that you've got this Monday night game that I assume as soon as we're done here, you're probably headed over to.
We're shutting it down right at 7, folks.
Yeah.
Yes,
you
sir.
Go watch some. two teams that obviously Westwood that we were supposed to play haven't played yet,
Yes.
and Stony Point that we play this weekend. So you get to scout two of them.
Be good. Be good.
Yeah.
Huh? See if the weather will have any impact on it
Guessing it might
tonight.
Yeah, cold, windy,
See
wet.
if they can throw in this bad boy.
You get all the factors tonight,
right.
don't you?
Be good.
Yeah. So football's meant to be playing in weather like that.
Well, this is playoff weather. I mean, this is what it's going to be when you back up a
that's
month.
true.
This is what it's going to be till the end. So might as well settle on in and bear down.
And until we can build a dome, this is what we have to play in. This kind of weather, right?
Let's see if Tim can get us something like this. Pretty
See,
cozy
so that was
in
my
here,
segue right into talking about stadium upgrades. I don't think we considered a roof over our stadium.
We haven't talked through that yet. No.
Well, yeah, I can always see if you can do that for what is it, $10 million? Maybe we could do it. Yeah. Well, I do want to talk to, and again, Henry Gideon, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Tim Kuntz, who's Principal of VLK Architects, and as a lot of folks know, Hutto Stadium has been around for a while. It's served its purpose well at the 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A level, 6A now, and it's time to upgrade and make some changes, and we're excited about that. And Henry, certainly our voters, when they passed the bond last year, part of that included stadium improvements. So talk a little bit about why now? Why is it the time now to go through and do some stadium updates and upgrades?
Sure.
Push that mic right up next to your mouth when
Mic
you're talking.
check, test
yeah, it's
one.
got to be really close. There you go.
All right, how's that?
Yeah, you're good.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Well, it's an opportunity for our community to come together with our coaching staff and all of our student groups to upgrade our stadium. As the voting public knows, as our community knows, we're a fast growth school district. We're finishing up on the 9th grade center out on FM 1660. It won't be long before we go from a 1-horse town to a 2-horse town. As a fast growth school district, the stadium that we have has served us very well. Good news is we are in good shape with respect to our turf and our track system and our lighting system. Now we need to increase the capacity and address some of the basic infrastructure so that we can accommodate 6A size attendance. Our focus is going to be, of course, on the home side to expand the seating capacity, the opportunity to also expand the visiting side. We're also looking at some support infrastructure upgrades to concession stands, hopefully some additional athletic facilities that will also help us with our visiting teams, with possible field house. Most importantly, perhaps for some, will be potty parity. When you add seats, you got to have a few more toilets. So we're hoping to tackle a lot of things that are on the utility side, but at the same time do something with input from our board and with input from our community that makes this a multi-purpose venue that all of our taxpayers can enjoy as we showcase not only football, but our marching band, our ROTC programs, our girls and boys soccer, our track. It's a graduation. I think everybody was blessed to see what we were able to do with graduation outdoors this past year. I've been in this business for about 30 years. I've had the opportunity to have been involved in graduations going back 30 years. And I think there's something special about it being on your home turf, And even though the Cedar Park venue has served us well, I think we'd like to continue the outdoor tradition. It's an opportunity for our community to come together and really embrace this project and at the same time be mindful of the investment that our taxpayers are making.
So I know over the last few weeks, the four of us and a few others toured some stadiums here locally in Central Texas area, and then you guys went up to Dallas-Fort Worth area 2 weeks ago and did some more touring of stadiums. What are some things, and I guess, Brad, I want your perspective on this. What are some things you're looking at as an athletic director on that? Henry, what are some things you're looking at as a operations guy and big picture? And then, Tim, what are things you're looking at as the architect who ultimately is going to help us, construct whatever it is that we're going to do? And one of the things we want to be clear, we're not building a new football stadium at Hutto,
Right.
in Hutto ISD. We're not doing that. We're remodeling, updating what we currently have. It'll be our central stadium for 2 high schools for years to come. So just want to be clear about that, because I know there's some folks sometimes that hear that and think, oh, we're going to build one of these $70 million stadiums
No,
like some
not
of
at
these
all.
other places have been. So just to be clear on that. Brad, what are some things you look for as an athletic director when you're touring some of these other facilities?
Well, a lot of the groups that Henry already mentioned, we need to take care of those groups, because you're not only going to have, filming deck needs for football, you're also going to need that for the band and for their practices and their timing as they get into their marching season. Track and field, certainly, even this year we're set to host the 25 6A district meet. And, of course, when you're talking about I guess the southeast corner, when we're thinking about maybe putting the field house there for the visiting team, how can we also help out as an entrance to baseball and softball to have a universal spot where their ticketing can be done and take care of not only our workers but also our fans as they come, because sometimes they're confused on, do I go to the home side, do I come to the visiting side? And as we go to our online ticketing, just some things within that system are enhanced as well. So when you're talking the baseball and softball, you get into the concessions, talk not only for football, but for track and field. Do you have more than one area to spread out to the crowd and give easy access to the restroom and bathroom, but then also have appropriate size concession stand for the baseball and softball? And then for football, just the traffic flow, to have to put ropes and chains across from the gates to have a visiting team enter the stadium as home side people go to concession stand or bathroom. And then now you have to wait for the home team to do so, and this is prior to the game twice, and at halftime again for the teams. And, it really boils down to safety, because as Henry talked about with expanding the seating, there's a lot of people down there on that tarmac. When it's been a big game and nice weather, we can't hold it. I mean, it's nice, it's cozy, it's comfortable, but we can't hold all those people. So just, all those factors roll in. And then you talk about big games with the press. Who can we fit up in our current press box right now? We can hardly get visiting coaches and home coaches up there.
Right.
Our filmers are outside, so if it's raining, they have no cover.
So
you
is your
can't get the
broadcasters.
statements in there. And then you
Scouts.
go to the radio broadcast team, which, that's been a nice touch this year to give you and our visiting radio, because, again, 6A, they bring that personnel with them. To have that already set up for them is good as well. And then, maybe 2 other groups that you get at a 6A press box is a hospitality room for our superintendent and our school board and people that, we care about within our school district, and then scouts that come to look at not only us and scout us for opponents, but, college recruiters as well.
Yeah. Henry, you being in your role, one of the things you're always thinking about is logistics and safety, security, flow, things like that. What are some of the things that you've had your eyes on as you're touring some of these places? And of course, you got to build the stadium in Bastrop, and you've been a part of that. But what are some things that you think about from your perspective?
A lot of what Brad just described is how do we take this facility, this canvas, and update it to meet the needs of a large school district with multiple high schools in the near future, but most importantly for the traditional Hutto High School that's there now. How do we update that? And so emergency operations always weighs in the back of my mind when it comes to traffic, ingress, egress. How do we handle the mix of pedestrian flow with vehicular traffic? How do we manage buses? One of the things we'll be doing with this project, because in the near future the voters have authorized some improvements to Hutto High Schools, we will also do a traffic impact analysis. And we'll meet with our City of Hutto partners, with our fire department, Hutto Fire Rescue, to look at, do we have what we need today and in the future on the books so that we can accommodate the 5 or 6 times a year when a fairly large crowd is going to be in attendance. And then during the normal course of the year when we have smaller events, what's the safest way for constructing this? And something that I didn't mention earlier is we're looking at some improvements, but it really is a master plan of not only the possibilities now, but what would we need to bring to the school board and to the taxpayers for future improvements as we go along. So it's really a short-term fix, and I shouldn't say fix because this stadium has served us well. It really has. That sacred ground has seen many opportunities, or if there's some other event that the community wants to host in this venue, it needs to be done in a manner that it is considered a community venue, a multi-purpose venue, and then we consider all the emergency operations and safety features that maybe people don't pick up on, but just by how we arrange the systems and how we load and unload the facility. You know, this will be about a 95 to 100 foot tall structure when you're talking about the press box. So when you think about getting fire apparatus to that, you're going to have to think about giving fire department ingress and egress, and what is that going to look like? How are we going to get a ladder truck over there, for example? And then a minor thing, but I think more to come, and really more from the board's perspective, but also the coach and those community stakeholders that will be brought together on the design elements. What do we do to embellish this stadium? One, to honor its namesake. You know, this community is so behind our veterans, our first responders. The fact that it is named the Hutto ISD Memorial Stadium, the fact that we have in the venue today elements that honor the services as well as our first responders. You know, one of the challenges that we've given the architect is let's take that to the next level. And then how do we take this edifice, this design project, and honor our history, the German-Swedish farming community that has surrounded this community for years and years, and bring in elements of that and what's being done in the co-op district and other areas that might be part of the design. I look forward to hearing what our community and what our board would like to bring to the table when it comes to that type of input. But really for me, it's about giving the students the most optimum venue to showcase their talents, regardless of whether they're a cheerleader or they're a football player or they're a track star, or perhaps they're just kids that work on the sidelines helping with one sport or the other. How do we showcase those kids and make this a multi-purpose venue that will serve us for many, many years to come?
Tim, as the architect, what is when you're touring around, and you're obviously one of the things you're probably doing is you're listening
Sure.
to these guys and me and others of what our thoughts are, and you're trying to kind of collect all of that. But, you know, what's your vision, your role as you're visiting these other stadiums?
Sure. So we visited several stadiums that VLK had been a part of, as well as we think it's important to visit other stadiums that we aren't a part of, and see what kind of spaces are working for the coaches, working for the folks that are using those spaces, you know, on a weekly or sometimes daily basis. And so that's what we're truly, like you said, we are listening in on. You know, I asked Coach, I think after every time we left a stadium, Coach, what did you see that either worked or didn't work, or what do you just want to tell me about this one? Good and bad. And whether that's our stadium or somebody else's, we want your input. We want to design the best stadium possible for Hutto ISD.
What are some trends, I guess, that you're seeing in high school football stadiums around Texas right now? And how do you, while trends are important, how do you avoid being trendy and building something or designing something that's going to be lasting and kind of surpass the trendiness?
Yeah, I would say just to start with the stadium, right now I see it as an icon. When you pull into Hutto, you can't miss that stadium. It's been on Friday Night Lights. It's been a showcase for this town for many, many years. So we don't want to lose that feeling that it's had for a number of generations now almost. But as far as the trends that we're seeing, again, it's specific to Hutto. It's not just a stadium where you're showcasing football games or soccer games. Mm-hmm. It's an experience, if you will, for all attendees that go to this facility. As Henry mentioned, this is truly one of the few community facilities that that folks are going to visit, and so we want the experience to start as soon as you exit your door, as soon as you're walking up to the stadium. And so we're looking at things like how do we provide a plaza for families to approach the stadium and utilize. There are some trends now where there's play fields that are incorporated into the design, that kids can go down and use a turf field and throw the football around. You guys have some amenities that are in place already, as far as you already have a turf field, so you're one up there. You already have LED lighting, so those are great things. We would incorporate that for sure in a new stadium. But again, I think bringing your press box up to today's standards for a 6A school district, sports throughout not just Texas but the United States. You look over the history of sports, and they just continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's not just football. It's soccer, it's lacrosse. And those facilities that they're playing in are continuing to get better and better and better. So hopefully that answers your question a bit.
Absolutely. And I love the thought that you mentioned the outside of the stadium aspect, that plaza field that I think – certainly at colleges, you see that, right? I mean, it's a gathering place before games. People kind of hang out before they go into the stadium. And from my perspective, most high schools miss that, right? That's not a thing that you see in many high school stadiums. And I think that's awesome to have this thing, a place where people can gather and spend time in non-COVID days,
sure,
obviously, before they then kind of migrate into the stadium, 30 minutes or so before the game.
Right. And we also wanted to, as Henry mentioned, some of the design aspects of the facility as you see it from a distance and as you're entering it, we're starting to pull ideas from this community, not just out of the box or off of the shelf things that we've done on other projects. We want it to be specific to Hutto. And so it's an exciting project for us. Things are starting to come together. We've been showing Coach and Henry and Todd, you've been a part of those discussions, some of the design updates, and it's continuing to evolve. We're really spending a lot of time right now on what are those historical pieces that we can influence the design with.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people miss that, right? Or when I say miss it, they don't think about that's part of your job. It's not just to
we don't want to just give you a
stadium.
box.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of those
right.
out there, but those little finer things, those little touches that maybe people don't even think about right now, but when they walk into that stadium, they're walking in or they enter and they're like, wow, that's neat. Somebody thought about that.
Yeah.
And
I was there with my family at the game on Friday, and it was first game I've been to in Hutto. But one of the coolest things, not just not I know. What was happening on the field was awesome. What was great was to see your community behind you, regardless of whether you were up or down. They were behind you the entire time. But there was also one really cool moment that my son he focused on, and it was that train going by.
Oh yeah.
And little things like that. They can play a significant role in the design of a facility. And I'm not saying we're bringing a train into the stadium. But, there are characteristics from, what surrounds this facility that we want to capture on.
Well, and obviously you and your son missed what's even normal, right? Like the blow-up helmet that they run through. It was too windy to have that up the other night. And, certainly the band, we're having to reduce our band by about a third or to a third each game. So instead of 250 kids marching out there, it's 80. And, all of those things that but I think things like the train that you mentioned, we all take that for granted.
Sure.
Right? And so outside eyes like yours that can come in and see things it's kind of like when you live in the mountains, you forget about the mountains. You
Right.
you don't notice them because
Right.
that's just part of your everyday life. And so you probably will see things and be able to incorporate that in a way that those of us that are here every day don't even think about.
Right.
That's fun. Probably makes your job a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
So
yes.
so what is Henry and Tim? You can probably speak this too, but kind of what are our next steps as we're obviously this is all going to happen pretty soon after football season ends because it takes time to get this done. You got another football season that comes up. Hopefully starts on time next August.
It will.
Yeah, but there's other things that could happen in the same. But yeah, so what's our timeline?
Well, I'll let Tim be the shepherd of that dialogue. Right now, we're in the 30,000 foot, 10,000 to 10,000 foot discussion. Right now, it's about massing the concepts. It's about wrestling what we have in the way of a budget. But this is not going to go together in a traditional scope and sequence or a logical order, just because of the bookmark ends or the bookends of a football season that's underway and the goal of getting some of, if not all of this done before next football season. But I'll let Tim, because he's going to be far more articulate, because there'll be several phases. This is kind of the initial groundwork phase. Then there's going to be, some opportunities for the community to participate, our board to participate in some design elements. It'll fall back to end users. Athletes will be involved. Band students will be involved. It is a matter of kind of like the charrettes we did with the middle school and elementary projects. But Tim, why don't you take us through that narrative of how you see this unfolding over the next 8 to 10 months?
Sure. So right now the school district is in the process of getting a contractor on board. We're a few weeks away from that. But the huge benefit to that is to talk about the phasing and the planning. But what you'll see, as Henry alluded to, we are still at kind of the 10,000 foot level, but we're starting to move in closer and closer every day. But the first thing that you're going to see is we're going to release a package that does take down the old stadium just so we can get the ball rolling from a construction standpoint. As that's happening, we're finishing up the construction documents to then issue a second package, which would be the final design of the press box, the stadium, and all the support buildings. That's going to happen in January and being taken to a February board meeting. From there, there's going to be a tremendous amount of work happening. And even up to that, site development, as far as preparing that area to receive new aluminum grandstands, you're going to start to see that probably in late December, January, February. That work's going to start happening because we have to get in front of it. But as far as the timeline, we're looking to order the grandstands a bit early, just from a production standpoint, to ensure we stay on schedule. So once those are in production, we foresee them coming onto the site sometime in the spring. They need several months to install all those pieces, and alongside that, the press box will be coming out of the ground probably late March is when the press box is really going to start taking shape. So all of those components will come together, and we're set to be ready for that first varsity game in September.
In the meantime, we have to also ensure that our spring sports still have, the tableau to showcase, right? So
right.
While the home side work is being done and maybe some other site work is being done, we won't interrupt the soccer season or the track season. For a little while, our fans are going to have to sit on the visitor side, because we're working on the home side. But all of that is staged so that we don't disrupt the opportunity for the Hippos to get out there and be competitive. But you got to it's kind of a puzzle that you've got to put together, and there's a time frame in which we have to work. The big challenge with the aluminum seating is just the lead time to get it ordered and get it here. And I like the approach that we're taking, and the fact that the board had previously approved different methodologies for us to tap into. We'll use the construction management at risk methodology for this project, And I think it's a cost-effective way to deliver this with the quality that we're going to want at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the benefit to that is that contractor, they're going to be involved in these design meetings as well coming up, and so they're going to be able to listen to you, Coach, before they even set foot on that site and start building anything. They're going to want to hear your thoughts as well as a lot of the other users when we get into some of the meetings. They're going to be able to hear that dialogue and know what's really important to the project. So from an architect standpoint, that's really important as well.
So you had mentioned, Henry, that some other aspects of it, it's more than just the stands and the press box, right? I mean, we're talking having to add concession stands, change some things, add restrooms, add a visiting locker room. Like, can all of that stuff happen before next fall?
A good portion of it can, and yes, right now we feel like it can. And the way it's being designed is so those support buildings aren't necessarily interrupted by the plans for the bleacher construction.
Right.
In that we're not necessarily designing the concessions right underneath those bleachers. So from a timing standpoint, that will really help with the schedule. They'll be separate from the bleachers themselves.
Brad, you mentioned hosting the district track meet. Is that this year we're hosting, like
That's
this spring?
year. So that
And
might
it
be
won't
the
interfere with
one.
that?
That'll be the one event when you're talking fans. And right now, what is our capacity going to be for track?
Right.
We still have to wait for UIL rules and regulations, and of course, anybody can host the 25 6A district meet.
Sure.
We already know what coaches are working the events. You can pass. I mean, our people can go work over there.
Sure.
As well. So if there is going to be one downfall to it, you're going to have one or two things maybe misplaced, or like Henry alluded to, you may have to sit on the visitor side. We may not have our normal game day operations up in the press box because that's going to be gone.
Right.
So we may have to put something, as far as a temporary tent for, a scoreboard operator and announcer on the visitor side. And it won't be business as normal, but we're able to host a home game and let our kids play. And really the biggest thing is to be able to use that every single day for practice, because
Right.
by the time you get into the February and March months, you've got football off season going on, you've got both soccer teams going, you've got PE out there a lot of different days. There's so many groups that that use that during that time.
I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to even see some of the new traditions and things that emerge, just from this. I know we were brainstorming last week and saying if you have this plaza thing that even thinking about like the band marching from the band hall over to the stadium and marching through that plaza, with fans lining or just little things that might happen and might turn into traditional things. It's just fun to kind of dream about all of that. Which is part of your job. Is you just get to dream a lot. You get to dream a lot.
Although, like Coach said, every play matters. For us, every line matters.
I'm sure. Yeah, every line, yes.
Yeah.
And those lines get changed sometimes.
That's right. That's
and
right.
one of the challenges that when you're taking on a project like this is, again, I emphasize all my career it's been about multi-purpose. Let's stretch the tax dollar. Let's make this thing as user-friendly as possible. So when you think about a plaza, our current stadium as it sits today with that drainage basin that kind of separates our home parking from the stands, it lends itself, or it's asking for an entrance, right?
Right.
But from a utilitarian perspective, I've got to figure out how to get a 72,000-pound ladder truck to that new press box.
Right.
So that plaza will double as that ingress, egress for fire apparatus and for safety vehicles to get in and out of there, even though it will be a pedestrian crossing. And while we're at it, let's do some things from the safety point of view that makes it safe for pedestrians to enter, land, gather, get their tickets, place for some celebrations, a place for student pep opportunities, T-shirt sales. Who knows? It may turn into a farmer's market on Saturdays when we're not playing football.
There you go. Yeah.
So when you look at it, you're looking at how do we dream big, but at the same time make this a multi-purpose venue. And in something like a plaza can really be a dynamic improvement to the venue.
You know, it's funny you say that. One time I was out in Los Angeles, and when I'm in places that have famous stadiums, I always want to go see those stadiums. And Katie was with me. And so we drove out to the Rose Bowl because I wanted to see the Rose Bowl, right? It was a Saturday afternoon. It wasn't football season, but I wanted to see the Rose Bowl. And we drive up. There's a bunch of cars. I'm like, what's going on? And so we kind of find a little entrance, walk in. And you said a farmer's market. They had a flea market, like a swap meet going on inside the Rose Bowl. And it kind of like took away a little bit of the mystique in a way, right? But to your point, it's like you can use stadiums for a lot of things,
Sure.
Right.
besides athletics, and this being a community
and once
facility.
this thing is completed, then we have the opportunity to market it as a playoff venue.
Absolutely.
Not just for the first 5 or 6 games that we're going to go into the playoffs, right? But those other schools that are looking for that neutral field, and instead of going all the way to Austin and Bryan College Station's playing somebody from West Texas, we've got a great spot for them to come. It's that allows us to generate some revenue to help offset, operational costs that both the athletics and the operations department encounter during the school year. It's an opportunity for those booster clubs to continue to sell concessions off season.
Sure.
Which all of that revenue, goes to help support our band, our cheerleaders, our drill teams, or if it's soccer and track during track season. It will become a multi-use venue that will get a lot of use, and you get a chance to do this about once a generation.
Right.
So let's do it right.
Well, and you both mentioned, and it's true, it's a very iconic place too, right? I mean, you come into a small town. I mean, we're getting bigger, but we're still considerably a small town, right? That is a landmark. That is a place you go into. You go into towns, and like their football stadium is a thing that really just stands out and is an identifier. And Tim, a lot of the things, the concepts y'all are talking about building into it, just makes it even more so.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Anyway, going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun to just kind of track the progress of it, and obviously Henry will keep the public, abreast of what's going on throughout the process. And I know we're going to involve community members and other folks in this, so we look forward to.
It's an exciting project.
And I've seen these fundraisers like where you can like get a swing of a sledgehammer for pay $5 and you get 3 swings, the old car or whatever. I'll be first in line to pay the $5 or $10 to swing the sledgehammer into that press box. I think we can make some money.
There you go.
Taking swings on that old press box.
It served us well, though.
Yes.
Well, sure it has, but yeah, it has passed its time.
There you go.
For sure. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight, and that's exciting about what we're going to do with the press box or with the stadium. All right, Coach. Quick scouting report on Stony Point. I know you'll know more after tonight, but
well, we will.
They
haven't played in a while, so they had missed 2 games, and they had to move Friday night's game to tonight because Westwood came off their COVID break on Thursday, and so we have a rule in place that teams need to have at least 3 days practice just for safety of the kids. Put them back in pads and get them moving around again before the game, and so that's why they're playing that game tonight. And so we've got their scrimmage from the 3rd week in September, so that's a month ago,
right?
And when they played Bowie and beat them, so who knows if personnel has changed, if they'll be at full force, if they've had time to, after doing the scrimmage in first game, change what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what it is. But by and large, we know they're going to be a good ball club. They're big.
Another big Round Rock team
is big. Now their guards they're wide. They big shoulders and big hips, and their quarterback can move a little bit. He can run the ball. They got a good tailback. They'll go 2 backs. They'll slip the fullback out in the flats, and he can move. Got a good little slot that will get on the safety in a real hurry. So we've got to knock him off his route and redirect him in a hurry. But they'll sprint out and they'll run some 15 or 20 yard out routes, and we're going to have to cover and have balance because they're good on the ground as well. And then defensively, they've run some forefront, and also some three fronts. So I think their size and length and just arm length by their forward down lineman is really good. And I think we want to see how their one defensive tackle is going to play tonight, because our guards didn't play as well as we wanted to the other night. So that's going to be a big matchup for us come Saturday at noon. But they haven't shown a lot of man coverage. It's been zone. So we hope the timing is good and protection is good, and get some space to get our speed. You know, we've got to find a way to take advantage of our speed offensively and play with fast tempo and play with confidence. You know, we know that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, baseball. If you're on a hot streak, it's good. If it's not, it's tough. And that's kind of what our offense, when we have all 11 clicking for a full game, watch out. You know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We've seen it in practice all year. We need to put a full quarter game together.
Second half of the Waco game, I think, is when we really kind of saw that too, right? I mean, it just everything clicked, and we know it's going to happen again. But Stony Point will be, you know, year in and year out. They're a tough, formidable team. Playoffs almost every year, and so it'll be a good test for us. And again, to reiterate, it's at noon on Saturday. Game was moved from Friday to Saturday because of them playing Monday night.
Yes.
It was originally at noon, got moved to 7 o'clock last week, and then we found out yesterday. Was it yesterday that you texted me? I can't remember. I lose track. And said it's been moved back to noon.
Yes, yesterday.
So, quick, why?
Well, the UIL states that for varsity and sub-varsity football, you can't play after a game until the 5th day.
Okay.
So the reason why we had to move it to 7 originally was because there was a reiteration of the rule that came out last week that was actually incorrect. So if you played on a Saturday, you wait the 5 days and play on a Thursday, you can't play in the middle of the school day at noon. You have to wait until 7 o'clock p.m.
Right.
Well, they're playing tonight, Monday. We're going to a non-school day on Saturday. The rule in the football manual specifically states you can play at any time during the course of the day. That's why we originally stated it for noon. A publication came out. Of course, everybody had to change it because that's what the UIL says, and you know they'll probably correct it sometime this week. But it wasn't between the two teams. It was trying to follow UIL policy.
Well, and I think all of us would probably rather play at noon on Halloween day than 7 o'clock on Halloween night.
Right.
Not that Halloween's a big thing for me, but for some people it is.
It is.
And there's a lot of folks that would have to make that decision. Do I
well,
go
when
to
you
the
think
football
about
game?
you know the football game, as Henry alluded to earlier, it's an event. How many people? Of course, you know we may not have tunnels or may not have band at an away game, but those people are going to want to watch the game. They're going to want to support our kids, and now you have that conflict. So that new time is right.
Yeah, now you can do both. So so Saturday at noon, and obviously on the live stream, same link that you're watching on right now. Be what you watch. Click on and watch the game as you do every week, same as Coach's show. All right, we got to do our picks real quick. So I texted y'all earlier today, said that somebody made some separation this past week.
Gee, I wonder who that somebody might be, huh?
Well, let me just tell you. So you and Ryan both went 4-4 last week. Gage slipped further back at 3-5. I had a 7-1 week. So which makes the current standings now, Gage is 11-12 overall. You and Ryan are tied at 13-10 and 16-7. So you're going to have to pick some upsets. So I've already gotten Ryan's picks since he couldn't be here tonight. So I have to pick first since I'm in first. One of the games that we picked last week was Stony Point at Westwood. Everybody went Westwood, so I went ahead and marked those down. But you can change if you want to. I'm still going Westwood. Still
I'll
Westwood?
Stick with it.
Still Westwood? Okay. All right. Round Rock at McNeil. I think we're probably all going to go the same on this
Dragons.
one. Round Rock, Gage. Okay. Cedar Ridge at Vandergrift. I'll go Vandergrift. That could be a decent game. Vandergrift. Gage, you got to pick some upsets. You're never going to make up the ground. And then Westwood and Vista Ridge, I believe, are playing next Saturday, right?
They're
just
at
like
2 o'clock
playing.
on Saturday.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and pick that one. And I am going to go Vista Ridge because I don't know anything about Westwood yet.
Vista Ridge.
Vista Ridge. All right. Boy. Nobody's going to make up any ground on me on the high school games. We're all the same. All right, college games. First one, OU, and we do these against the spread. OU at Tech. Tech's getting 14.5 points. Red Raiders kind of had a nice little game against West Virginia with a lot of backups, but I don't know. You might be kind of riding their ship. They look pretty good against TCU. I don't think we can hang within 14.5 of them. So, OU.
OU.
Gage, there you go.
Going
Gage,
for
I hope
one.
you're the only winner of that game, right? All right. Speaking of West Virginia, Kansas State at West Virginia. Interesting. West Virginia is favored by 3.5. I'm going Kansas State on that. I think against West Virginia. West Virginia is favored by 3.5 over Kansas State.
Where's it at?
It's at West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Okay. Okay. Kansas State. TCU at Baylor. Baylor kind of took it on the chin to the Longhorns. TCU took it on the chin against the Sooners. Baylor is getting 2.5 points. I'm going to go Baylor.
TCU.
Bears. Okay. UT at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State favored by 3.5. I'm going Oklahoma State. Ryan went UT on this one.
Cowboys.
Okay. And then the other OSU, Ohio State, who looked pretty impressive now that the Big Ten's finally playing. Oh, I didn't put Minnesota on this week.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was kind of the boat kind of sank, didn't it?
Well, how many starters and kickers?
I know. Okay, so Ohio State at Penn State. Penn State's getting 13 points. I'm going Ohio State to cover that 13.
Ohio State.
Same. Okay. Gage trying to make up some ground. And then the last game, Arkansas, who's been surprisingly pretty impressive at A&M. A&M is favored by 11. I'm going to take the Razorbacks. Ryan with A&M.
Let's go Aggies.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to make up 3. All right. I feel good about that.
Yeah, you could. All right, we'll be back here next Monday night at the Coach's Show to talk about the win over Stony Point and look forward to the Freedom game, which is a week from this Friday.
November 6th.
So we'll actually spend a lot of time next Monday talking about the Freedom game. Very important thing. You alluded to it, Henry, all of our patriotism and the way we celebrate veterans, first responders in Hutto. We get to do that a week from Friday. But first of all, this Saturday, Hippos versus Stony Point. And over at Kelly Reeves Stadium at noon. If you can't be there, you can watch on online, the same link you're watching this. Appreciate you all joining us. Appreciate the folks that were in the crowd tonight, and we will see you Saturday at noon for Hippo football versus Stony Point. For Henry Gideon, for Tim Kuntz, Brad LaPlante, I'm Todd Robinson. Have a great night, everybody.